In the interest of full transparency, I was supplied with a code for this game to review by SpikeChunsoft. This in no way affects my review or honest opinion of this game. As many of you probably know, I'm a Fire Pro fan. I first discovered the series back in 2007 when I found some random video on YouTube of Ronald McDonald fighting The Undertaker, and I was hooked from there. I've been playing Fire Pro for over a decade now, and when I look back on the feeling I had discovering Fire Pro's deep and creative world, I often wish I could go back and experience that all over again. For many years, it looked like the Fire Pro series was done for good, that it died with the 2005 entry Fire Pro Wrestling Returns. I've made friends through Fire Pro, and even though I desperately wanted a new entry in the series, I was happy that I even got into the series in the first place. But last year, in the early months of 2017, SpikeChunsoft announced that not only was the series still alive, they were coming back in a big way with Fire Pro Wrestling World, which would be the biggest and best to date. So here we are in the final months of 2018. Is Fire Pro World the wrestling game fans have been waiting for? For the most part, yes. Fire Pro World sticks very close to the gameplay the series has had for nearly 3 decades now. This is not a button mashing kind of game. You have to take into consideration your wrestler's stamina and spirit, as well as how the different parts of their body have been damaged. Grappling is timing based, so you won't really get good until you learn how most of the animations play out. Going for bigger moves right away will often result in reversals. Fire Pro World stresses the build-up of a match and even encourages you to focus on putting on a good match more than winning at times. Each match gets a rating that goes up to 100%. For the most part, this doesn't matter for things like exhibition mode matches, but it does play a factor in the game's fighting road mode, which we'll get to in just a bit. There are the typical Fire Pro match types in here. You'll get your 1-on-1, 2-on-2, and all the basic battle royal stuff. The game supports up to 8 characters in the ring at once, but I did notice some slowdown whenever more than 6 characters were in the ring. You get your landmine death matches as well as your barbed wire rope matches too, in case you wanted to see some over-the-top violence. Fire Pro World also offers MMA fighting, even having the option to fight in an MMA cage called the Dodecagon in World. Gameplay is the largest hurdle to leap for most who are new to the series. It can feel at times like nothing goes your way, but World gives a good amount of tutorials and modes to help you learn the game, if you have the patience. There's a deep mission mode that will give you objectives to complete, everything from learning how to set up an opponent in the corner to pulling off a highly rated match. Once you're confident enough in your skills, you can go online and play against others around the world. But if you still don't have the patience to learn how to play the game well, I'm going to let you in on a long-time secret that every Fire Pro fan knows. The game is even better when you watch matches. That's right, set up a match, put down that controller, and watch a match play out. No game simulates a match better than Fire Pro Wrestling, and World is no exception. Once you dip into the creation tools and set up your own wrestling world, be it versions of real-life wrestlers and promotions, or creating your own fictional fed, Fire Pro shines when you just leave it up to the computer. This is all complemented by the solid creation suite World has to offer. But before we look into the creation suite, I want to look at the big thing that separates Fire Pro World on PS4 from World on PC right now: New Japan Pro Wrestling. The PS4 version of Fire Pro World comes packed with dozens of wrestlers from Japan's #1 wrestling promotion, New Japan. Not only do you get legendary wrestlers like Minoru Suzuki, Yuji Nagata, and Satoshi Kojima, but you also get modern stars of New Japan like Kazuchika Okada, Kenny Omega, and Tetsuya Naito. You even get some of the up-and-coming young lions as well. There are some obvious names missing, so I recommend looking at a full list before you buy the game expecting someone in particular to be a part of the roster. Not only do you get the wrestlers of New Japan, but you also get their new edit parts and moves to use on your own custom wrestlers as well. You can even use the New Japan belts in exhibition mode. The PC version of World will eventually be getting the New Japan DLC, but it's been delayed for now as the developers were focused on getting the PS4 version ready for a physical release. Fire Pro World's creation suite will look familiar on the outside, but it's changed quite a bit since Fire Pro Returns. When creating an edit, you can now see the front and back of the wrestler, as well as be able to turn each individual part completely around in a view window to make sure that what you're selecting actually looks good. You're also now able to adjust the level of shine to each part. This unfortunately means that gradients are now gone from the series, but some will miss this more than others. Each edit can also have 4 attires. Create a ring and create a belt are more or less the same, and you can create factions as well. FPWNet is World's creation sharing system, which will undoubtedly fill up quick with everything from the typical to the insane, and everything in between. It is a shame that some of the creation tools aren't as advanced as I'd hoped, but they were already good, so I'm not complaining about having them back. The big new mode for World is Fighting Road. This, like the New Japan content, is not yet available on PC, mainly because the mode is dealing heavily with the New Japan content. In Fighting Road, you create a wrestler and play through their career from Young Lion to IWGP Champion, building your skills and stats up like a wrestling RPG. You'll unlock new moves and training points with each chapter you complete, and there are also dialogue choices for you to select to give your character some personality. It's not just win or lose either. You'll be given mission objectives for some matches that encourage you to do things like put on a good enough match whether you win or lose, or use certain types of moves throughout the match. Fighting Road doesn't make you replay the matches either. If you fail a mission, you can skip it and pretend like you achieved the mission while you're still in the dojo, or you can just accept the accompanying dialogue for your failures in the later parts. Fighting Road is no technical achievement, but it is a substantial mode with a story that's engaging enough to keep playing through. Your wrestler will clash with veterans, fellow rookies, and eventually the top stars of the promotion. You'll be recruited by the different factions of New Japan, and you'll also go on excursion, which is what happens when students are sent off to a different promotion and/or country to gain experience and find their personalities. If you played a Fire Pro career mode before, then you probably know what you're in for. However, if you're new to the series, then Fighting Road will likely surprise you with how deep it gets into the wrestling business. The stability of Fire Pro World on PS4 has been very hit and miss. I've gone several hours playing the game with no issues at all, and I've also hit bugs that crash the game over and over. I never really factor in these sorts of problems into my review score because these issues can potentially be, and usually are, fixed in a patch soon after release, and most of them have been fixed by the day one patch. At a $50 retail price, I consider Fire Pro World to be a very good deal. I've already gotten over 300 hours put into the PC version of the game, and I'll likely put in a good amount of time into the PS4 version because of the New Japan content. However, that's coming from someone who knows the game well and has invested the time to learn all of its many deep systems. Not all will have that sort of patience, but if you're looking to get into Fire Pro World, just remember that you're very much making an investment in a game that you'll have to take the time to understand. Fire Pro has never been a pick up and play kind of game. You can also buy a digital deluxe version of the game off the PlayStation Network for $90, which is advertised to include Fire Promoter, Fighting Road 2017 New Japan Junior Heavyweight Championship, additional scenarios, and a New Japan theme. Honestly, I think this game is really missing that Fire Promoter mode. Fighting Road is good for those who like to play the game. It offers several hours of gameplay and it's replayable, but for those who like to watch matches play out, there's really no mode designed for that in the game's current state. I think if Fire Promoter, which is akin to what GM mode was for the SmackDown series, were included in this $50 package, and the game had a bit more polish, I'd be awarding this game with a perfect score. But even still, Fire Pro is the best wrestling game you're going to find on the market today. Graphics aside, and even then I prefer the look of Fire Pro, this game blows the current WWE games out of the water in my opinion. But that is just my opinion and your mileage may vary. I give Fire Pro Wrestling World for the PS4 4 stars out of 5.